You aren't Spider-Man until you can answer this one question. But first, we have to understand him. The whole point of his story is that it's relatable. Like most of us, we're once an awkward kid in a new school just trying to fit in. He's just a regular kid with a regular family and a regular life. This is exactly how we meet him. In his room, listening to music, drawing, and about to be late for school, which I have been guilty of way too many times. And I know, the similarities are real obvious. But what if I told you can't be like him until the bite? This is the moment his life changed forever. In screenwriting, we call this the inciting incident. It's used in almost every film out there. I've never seen one without it. Before, he was just living his life as a kid, not really concerned about his future. But now he's instantly affected by his powers. And obviously, there's an adjustment period here. He doesn't really know how to use them, but luckily he has people along the way to help him. But regardless, he began to have a lot more challenges like fighting Doc Ock in the Prowler. Everyday activities. But even after he learns to use his powers and fight all the villains, his biggest obstacle was his own doubt. Ever since the Spider-Man in his world died, he knew he had to be the one to save New York. And in the end, this was the only thing in his way. And he succeeded. What a shock. The reason it's not surprising is because this is real life. I went through the same thing when applying for college a few years ago. We all have a spider bite in our lives. Mine was the junior year of high school, the inciting incident. It forced me to find a path, a future. What was I going to do with my life? I never really thought about it before then. And I chose science. Great, steady field with plenty of jobs. It's what I thought I was meant to do. And the entire application process tested me literally and figuratively. Call me dramatic, but I'm comparing this to Miles fighting Doc Ock, I don't care. And throughout the whole process, I doubted if I'd get into any good schools, if my grades were enough, the usual school things. But then I overcame that and I went on to go to a good school to study science and live happily ever after. But we're only 2 minutes into this video, so something's off here. This is where it's important to ask yourself, who are you? And no, I don't mean your name. I mean, what's your purpose? Your destiny? Answer it. Go ahead. Now ask yourself the same thing if it were 2016. 8 years apart, they're probably really different answers, and that's okay. Our future isn't set in stone. Which is great because there's a sequel. In the next film, Across the SpiderVerse, we see Miles be more comfortable with his powers and operating with more confidence. He's living his normal teenage life while being the world's only Spider-Man until Gwen comes back. She's now a new member of an interdimensional spider society. It's really cool. But their job is to keep the timelines in check without breaking canon events, which are described as absolute points in time. This is important. Even in our own lives, we see so-called canon events. For a lot of us, our lives are predetermined by our upbringing, parenting, schooling, everything. It all leads to someone else's idea on how your life should be. But Miles thought he proved that they don't have to end that way. He disrupted a canon event in the Mumbai scene, and the Spider Squad came to at least attempt to fix it. So later, when Miguel explains canon events to Miles, he doesn't accept it, and nor should he. After learning all this at the Spider-Man HQ, he knew he had to change his fate. To stop his incoming canon event, to save his dad. Unfortunately, this is a path he has to walk alone. Everyone else has bought into the canon event idea. He feels trapped. Literally, they trap him in a cage. But how many times have you felt this? Because it's likely happened more than once. Feeling trapped by the circumstances around you. But what's important is what you do about it. This is the nexus of Miles' arc in this movie. He can either accept the canon events, or he can make a change even though it's not guaranteed. While this might seem like an easy decision, it's really not. Every other Spider-Man variant couldn't escape their canon events. Their paths are set. Even the leader, Miguel, tried to change it himself but failed, which is why he swore to protect it. But after all of this proof, Miles still escapes, determined to change his destiny. And in Miguel's final attempt to stop him, Miles stares him down, the physical manifestation of predeterminism, and says,
"Everyone keeps telling me how my story is supposed to go. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing."
We can all do our own thing, not just Spider-Man. We're not defined by others' lives and experiences. Our destiny is not predetermined, but rather forged. But how do you do that? How do you know you're on the right path? Well, let's take another look at Miles. We know he got bit by a spider, but we never looked at how it happened. In the beginning of the first movie, Into the SpiderVerse, we've seen he's really into art, drawing, painting, all that stuff during his downtime. So one day his uncle Aaron took him to an abandoned train station to have a place to practice. It was a regular night for Miles, not exactly routine, but nothing crazy, until he was about to leave. A strange looking spider bit him. And now take a look at the scene and tell me what you see. Go ahead, take a look. It should be absolutely nothing. It's weird, I know. It's so visually striking, but what's really important is the contrast between the visuals of the spider bite and Miles' reaction. This single event will forever change the course of his life, regardless of what he chooses after. The spider bite is what made him take a hold of his life, his future, his destiny. Even in the beginning of both movies, we can already see his parents, while loving, pushing him into places he doesn't want to be. His dad pushes for him to attend a fancy charter school he hates and isn't supportive of his art. And in the second movie, his mom will only let him attend college in New York even though he clearly wants to leave. The spider bite is an opportunity for him to reclaim his future, and when it happened, he barely even noticed it. Again, this is just like real life. Life-altering events can happen without us even noticing in the moment. When I was a kid, being exposed to sci-fi early on was a big part of my future. And of course, I wouldn't know it at the time. Or when someone goes through a traumatic event when they're young, it could shape who they are as an adult. In cases like these, maybe the event already happened in your life and you just don't realize it. For me, I'm still figuring it out. But the key to finding the answer is to just work on your passions. If you're not passionate about anything, then that's the perfect opportunity to try anything. Growing up, I've always had a passion for something, but that was because I was always trying something new. I've done music production, photography, instrumentation, science, writing, there's a lot. It's allowed me to at least understand that our futures predicate on ourselves and who we want to be. It's corny, but you just know. Or maybe you don't. I'm not 100% sure. I'm still pretty young myself. But after my first year of college, I started to challenge my path. I could have just as easily ignored it and kept going. I don't hate science or school or anything, but there was always an alternate path, a door that just seemed a little brighter. And I don't know where it leads, but it starts right there. Just like Miles, especially since there's another movie coming out, so we don't really know what will happen yet. Regardless though, it is up to us to change our paths, no matter how many times others have failed, tried, or steered you in a different direction. You will be the one to change it. You are the only one who can answer the question, who are you?